Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the Resident and Family Support Council meeting that we hold on the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month at 3 o'clock. And always remember the same link that you use to get into this meeting is the link that you'll be able to use to get into all of our meetings. Again, thank you to the Illinois Pioneer Coalition for allowing us to use their Zoom account so that we can have these meetings hosted. What we wanted to talk about today was making empowered care choices. So we're going to talk some about this material on your way, and it's how to find dignity and choice when choosing a long-term care community. We understand that many of you that attend this meeting are already either living in long-term care or you have a loved one who lives in long-term care. But sometimes they may be there for a short period of time. And you may wind up having to go through the process again of finding a long-term care community to move into. So this information can be useful for that, or it can also be useful if you're not happy with the care choice that you currently made, if you're looking for a different place to move into and to be able to help you find that home that help meets your needs. So I'm hoping that the material that we talk about today can be beneficial to all of you. Do feel free at any time to either raise your hand, put on your camera, do it, or put the question into the chat if you have any questions regarding any of the information that we're going to be talking about today. So one of the things that I wanted to let everybody know is that every year, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program for the state of Illinois takes initiative that we work on collectively throughout the entire state. And this year, our initiative is to encourage long-term care communities to embrace person-directed living to promote systemic changes in long-term care culture. So what does this mean? What it means is we realized that during the pandemic, many long-term care communities became very policy oriented because we had infection control issues going on, all that stuff that happened with visitation, which was so horrible, all the things that we were trying to do to keep people safe that lived in long-term care. So we became really policy driven through all of this. So realizing that as the state ombudsman program, we realized that what we needed to do is go back to the people. And while we understand that policies and procedures are very important, people are more important. So we wanted to really embrace this person-directed living and what this really means and encourage long-term care communities across Illinois to take a look at their practices to really see if what they're doing is really putting that individual first while keeping everybody safe. So this is the initiative that we have adopted across the entire state of Illinois. So how are we doing? So what does this person-directed living really mean? So just to kind of give it to you in a little bit of a nutshell, oops. If you go to a traditional nursing home, residents are told when to wake up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to bathe, all based upon institutional schedules and set routines. So these are all what a traditional nursing home looks like. People are not being given these options of when they can wake up, when they can eat, when they can bathe. And if you lived at home, you would have those options. So a culture change long-term care community, what they do is they look at residents and they let people be able to wake up, go to bed, eat, bathe whenever they choose. So what happens there is staff really alter their work routines to honor the residents' preferences. In a traditional nursing home, it's really based mostly upon staff and what works best for the staff that work there. Whereas in a person-directed culture, and what it looks like is it's the resident's preference drives what the day is going to look like. So if you have been around in long-term care for a long time, you may know that in many nursing homes, people are woken up. They're being woken up for their day to begin. And many say, well, why do I need to be woken up? Because it's not like I need to go to work. I'm retired, I'm sick, I'm frail. So why is somebody waking me up? And many times that wake up can happen extremely early in the morning. One of the things that I've learned through the course of my career when I've done some talking to nurses aides about this, it can look like 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock. Typically, it's about between 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning that people start to be woken up. And I don't know about any of you, but I don't get up at 4:30. That's not the time that I get up in the morning. I don't even get up at 5:30. I like my sleep and I want to be able to sleep to when I wake up. I also am an individual that does not like to be woken up by anybody. I do set an alarm clock when I have to get up at a certain time, like if I have a flight that I'm afraid I'm going to miss or something like that. But I usually don't even wake up to my alarm clock. The alarm clock, when I do set it, I typically wake up before the alarm even goes off. I just notice a different in my mind state when I'm woken up to alarm and when I woke up based upon my own body telling me to wake up. I can feel a difference in what my day looks like. So if I lived in a traditional long-term care facility, what would happen to me is my day would start off in a bad way all the time. If I lived in a culture change community, my day would start off much better because I get to sleep to when I wanted to sleep, which is a really important thing, particularly if you're sick. You want to be able to sleep to when you want to sleep. And most people that live in long-term care are sick in some manner, and their bodies want to sleep. And we do know that sleep is healative for individuals, so that sleep can be a very, very important thing. Also, going to bed. I mean, many times if you're in a long-term care community later at night, which I used to be, in my past career, I usually was leaving nursing homes anytime between, I'd say, between 7 and 8:30 many times, sometimes much later than that even. And during those times, everybody was being put to bed. It was pretty quiet in the long-term care community about 8 o'clock at night. Most people were already put into bed without that choice of if they wanted to go to bed or they didn't want to go to bed. Again, I am a person I do like a quiet evening. I like to be able to relax and have my evening look the way I want it to lose, but I don't want to be in bed. I want to be able to be sitting up, relaxing, and get myself to go to that natural place where I will naturally then fall asleep. And also, if you think about eating and bathing as well, I am not a person who says I'm going to bathe at this time every day. That's not who I am. And I don't, and not necessarily do I bathe every day. It just depends on what is happening in my life. So I would get to choose that if I lived in that culture change nursing home. Whereas if I didn't, I would be based upon what the nursing home was telling me I could do, and I would be scheduled to do this stuff. And that's just not natural for many of us that live in our own homes. Another thing to know for a traditional nursing home would be is that residents frequently have different care staff. The staff don't really know the residents very well, and they're not familiar really with these people's preferences. And so, because of this, residents often feel unknown, insecure, and scared. So, what that would look like is you have a different staff all the time, and they call that rotation, the staff's rotation, how they provide that care. One of the things when I questioned this early on in my career, when I first started working in long term care, I questioned a nursing home about why they did this because it didn't feel right to me in my heart. And I was basically told, I was told by the director of nursing that, staff get so close to the residents. If they care for the same person every day, they'll be really upset if something happens to that individual, if they die, if they leave, they'll be really upset about that. So we don't want to upset our staff too much. Well, that kind of slapped me across the face because I was like, well, I want staff to care too much about the residents. So we really want to make sure that we go to this person centered care type of a building where the same staff do take care of the same residents all the time. And what happens then is the staff and the resident get to know each other so well. The resident feels taken care of, they feel more secure, they know the individual, and they get to be able to understand how they work well together. Caregiving is a very intimate relationship, and I want to know the person who's giving me that care because of that intimacy that can happen. So what really does happen is the staff member understand the way I would like to be bathed, the way I'd like to set up my evening before I go to bed, that I like to drink tea. I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't want coffee on my at my breakfast every morning. I want tea, and I want to be able to have access to that tea all day long because I like to drink tea all day long. And those are the things that really make my day a little bit better. So what happens when that happens is when staff and residents get to know each other. Ultimately, that care is much better because as a resident, I feel cared for. And as a staff member, it makes my day go better too. Because instead of wasting time giving me the coffee and having to go back and getting me the tea and back and forth, they already know that this is what Lee wants. that Lee wants her tea. So it really does help make everybody, the residents and the staff, day go much better. As a person who has even been an administrator in nursing homes, I have had staff members say to me that by caring for the same individual, they don't want to call off, they don't want to call in sick, they want to be there all the time because they don't want to disappoint the residents. They know their people and they want to make sure that they provide care to that individual the way that they know they can do it. Now, that to me is what makes for a good long-term care community. So these are just a couple of the things that help us understand what this person-directed living can truly be like. There are some values that go along with person-directed living, and those are on your screen for you right now. One is knowing every person, and these, you'll see numbers after this. These numbers mean that these are affiliated with federal regulations for nursing homes. So this is something that you can also download on the Illinois Ombudsman website. If you go under Artifacts of Culture Change on the left-hand side of our Ombudsman page, you will see that there is a link to be able to get to these values and principles of person-directed living. This is something that you can print. You can bring it in to your long-term care community and encourage them to really live by this. So like I said, you want to make sure that you know everybody, that you know who they are as a person, that you put the person before the task. This task is not nearly as important as the person, the individual. Relationship is that fundamental building block of that transformed culture, which I just talked about what that relationship can truly look like when you do person-directed living. Community is the antidote to institutionalization. What we do many times when people move into long-term care communities is we start that process of institutionalization. Not that this is a home, this is the place where you come to live. There are rules, you must abide by those rules. If you don't, there's always that threat of retaliation and or discharge. And that's not where a home should feel like. That would feel very scary and unsafe and unsure. So it's really looking at how can we provide that sense of community. To do unto others as they would have done unto you. Think about that rule, the golden rule. That should just be everybody's mantra on a day-to-day basis. Use and shape the potential of the environment in all its aspects: physical, organizational, psychosocial, spiritual. That should what.
Lee, can I interrupt you? I don't think your slides are advancing on this side of the screen.
They're not. What do you see on your screen, Lawrence?
The only thing I see is your way, how to find dignity and choice when choosing a long-term care community.
Well, thank you for that. Let me try this again then. Thank you for speaking up. Okay, so let's try this again. Please tell me, did the screen change for you, first of all? Lawrence, has changed.
It did. Right now, it's pretty much just blank, saying Illinois Pioneer Coalition has started sharing screen.
Okay, so it's saying that my Zoom has quit unexpectedly, and it's not letting me. You guys can still hear me though, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Hey, Lee, this is Karen. Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, so something happened here. My Zoom went in and out.
What is your name?
My name is Lee Moriarty.
Lee, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, Lee, this is Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
While you're looking at the technology, I just wanted to share something that I learned about recently, and it is a nice segue to what you were talking about, the different directives that go with person-directed care. I think most of us of the age range that are on the phone call understand what the golden rule is. That encourages individuals to treat others as they would like to be treated themselves. But there's a newer rule that I've heard about called the platinum rule. And the platinum rule is actually the key component of person-centeredness. It wants you to recognize that there are individual differences and people should adapt their behavior to meet the unique needs and preferences of the other person. So it's really about trying to put yourself in the steps of another person. So I just thought I would pass that on because it's something that I thought was really unique to the trends in the human service, but I've never seen it taught in schools. So when I have a chance, I pass it on.
I love that. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for sharing. Do you guys see my screen that says values and principles of person-directed living? Do you see that?
No, Lee, what we see is the front page of your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, it's not allowing me to do this. So let me try this. Let me try this. I'm going to try it a different way. Try this. Oh, this is one of those days. I do apologize. Okay, now let me try. It's showing me that this is what the screen is, that it's being shared. So what I may have to do is I will go ahead and we'll make sure that this PowerPoint does get on our website. And I won't reflect to the PowerPoint as much. I'll just share the words that I would like to share about the message, if that's okay with everybody, because it does not look like it's going to allow me to share my screen. It keeps giving me a message that it wants to kick me out of Zoom when I try to share it, which is unfortunate. Okay. So you're still not seeing it, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm showing.
Lee, you're muted.
You know what it's doing? It's kicking me out of Zoom and putting me right back into it. This is what keeps happening.
Yep, and then it mutes you when you come back in. And the funny thing is, every time it's kicked you out, I'm like I'm about to text you, tell you you've been kicked out, and you come back.
Too funny. Okay. I'm just curious. Are you guys getting it on your screen now?
Lee, oh, there we go. Values
don't-
and principles of person-directed living at the state or the Federal State Operations Manual, Appendix PP.
That's what we're supposed to be seeing. Wonderful. Okay. So we're down to the middle of this list here where we're looking at responding to spirit as well to mind and body. And that's really looking at who people are inside. You know, who are they? Not just who are they with how they do cognitively and how they are in regards to their abilities to be able to do things physically. It's also to look at who are they spiritually? Who are they as an inner individual? What are their likes, their dislikes? Who are they as that person? And that really true understanding about individuals. The next one, all elders are entitled to self-determination wherever they live. And that shouldn't read elders, that should read everyone. Everyone is entitled to that self-determination. And you should be able to make your own choices and your own decisions. This is one of my favorite ones. Risk-taking is a normal part of life. I know I take risks and chances many times throughout the course of a day. And it may be, even going too fast when I'm driving. It may be crossing a street when the car might be just a little too close. But I get to take those risks and chances because it's part of who I am and it's a part of my life and my empowerment. And people should be able to take risks and chances as human beings. Each person can and does make a difference to promote the growth and development of all, that everybody can make a difference. We want people to continue to grow. Just because you go into long-term care, it does not mean that you are you're going there to just maintain life. You should still be able to grow. My mother is 90 years old. My mother still takes classes. My mother is still, she does Tai Chi, which is something that she's newer learned. She reads constantly. She's always trying to get her hands on materials to keep her growth in regards to learning new materials. Practice self-examination, search for new creativities and opportunities. This is something that every long-term care community should be doing, and allow people to be able to have new things come into their world and new experiences, and recognize that culture and transformation are not destinations, but a journey. It's always going to be a work in progress. It's not one of those things that we're a culture change nursing home. We put the person first. You should always be evaluating what it is that you do. So that brings us to this book called Your Way: How to Find Dignity and Choice in a Nursing Home. And this was actually a project that was done by the Illinois Pioneer Coalition. And it was really done to increase awareness of the consumer so that they would demand better care, and to motivate the provider of elder care services to change due to that consumer demand. So it was one of those, if we start demanding it as a person who's using those services, the provider has to respond and provide that care. So that's the motive behind this. So the book itself is, you could use that QR code. Stephen also put the link into the chat, but this will bring you right directly to the Illinois Pioneer Coalition webpage. When you go to the Illinois Pioneer Coalition webpage, if you click on resources, it will be under there. You'll see an opportunity for the book, or you'll see the opportunity for the questionnaire, and you'll see the opportunity for the questionnaire in Spanish. That is right now the only language that it's been translated into. If there's a need for other languages, please let me know, and I can let the Illinois Pioneer Coalition know, and we could get that translated into other languages as well. But these are a couple of highlights that are in the book that I wanted to just share with everybody. One is the first chapter is actually entitled Need Help Now. And this chapter of Need Help Now is for that crisis situation. You're in the hospital and the doctor says, we're going to be discharging you tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and we recommend that you go into a long-term care facility. When that conversation happens, this is a chapter to go to. And one of the very first questions is, just because somebody says that you need to go into a long-term care community, does it mean you need to go into a long-term care community? There are other services out there, and you should be empowered to make that care choice. A doctor does not need to be the one to tell you to do this. You can say, no, I want to go home. And I think that's a very important message for people to hear. Just because a doctor says to do it, there are services, but you need to evaluate that. You need to evaluate if that is a good thing for you or a bad thing for you based upon what you want to do. And that also takes you through the rest of the process, which kind of goes into everything that I'm going to share moving forward. One is defining the nursing home services. There are many different types of services out there for nursing home services that you could have. And this chapter goes into more details about that. And then it also goes into details about defining any care services that are out there. What's the difference between hospice? What's the difference between home care? What's the difference between respite care? The different types of services that there may be a different path that you can go down. And then that evaluating my care needs is one of those things under that Need Help Now that it directs you to right at that very beginning. This is where you can go through and do a self-assessment on you or on your loved one to see if you really do feel that long-term care is the best path for you right now. And I really should, I've been pointed out by a family member that when we use the term long-term care, we also do mean short-term care, because sometimes we're only going there for that rehab care, which is part of the conversation about what we're talking about. The other question that people always get worried about is, how do you pay for the nursing home bill? What does that look like? How do I pay for this? And that chapter goes into what Medicare pays. And it also goes into Medicaid and how you can qualify for that. If you've got long-term care insurance, what that can look like. So it helps you go through some of those as well. Then there's a resource section in the book that has information on advanced directives, what that's all about. We want to strongly encourage everybody at any stage in your life to have your advanced directives in order. We never know when that catastrophic event is going to happen to us. So I do want to encourage people to have their advanced directives in order. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can look in this book. We also have done one of these meetings centered around advanced directives as well. So that there might be some materials there that can help you make those choices. Then there's also Illinois and some national resources to be able to help with those care choices that you're making. Acronyms. This world has the long-term care world has a lot of acronyms affiliated with it. What is a DON? A director of nursing. There's a lot of things around that. So that chapter is built in there so that you can feel like people are not talking in hieroglyphics to you, that they are talking, that you can understand what they're saying. And if anyone ever does use an acronym around you, please stop and say, I'm sorry, but I don't know what that means. We don't all come from the long-term care world. And like I said, they have their own language when it comes to acronyms. Then one of the most important pieces is understanding what those residents' rights are, even prior to going into a long-term care community. And there's a resource on that. And then lastly, in the resource section, there's a document called Personal Directions for Quality Living. Again, I want to encourage everybody to fill this out. That is actually a questionnaire that you can fill out that tells people your favorite food. How do you like to start your day? How do you like to end your day? In case you ever lose your voice, this can be a great thing to be able to give to that care provider so they understand who you are. I also strongly advocate for people to fill that out. And if you go into a long-term care community, or if you're using home care services, give that to people. Let them see who you are as an individual so that they understand that you're a person, you have very succinct needs for yourself that you want to make sure that they get addressed, and that you know who I am when you're caring for me. So that's a really cool thing. There's actually the questionnaire as well as a sample of one, so you can get an idea that you should go into depth in this. You shouldn't just answer with one-word answers. Go into depth, because the more information you can put in there, the more people will know who you are. And then lastly, there's Your Way questionnaire, which is what I'm going to go into more details about now. Stephen, do we have any questions in the chat or anything that I need to be aware of as we pause for that right now?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, good. Okay, great. So I want to go ahead and go through the Your Way questionnaire with everybody right now so you can get an idea about what this is all about. Inside the book is a questionnaire. The intent of the questionnaire is to run copies of it. That's why you could also, on the Illinois Pioneer Coalition website, just download the questionnaire and you can hit print from there as well and just print that material off. And that questionnaire, the way it's intended to be used is for people to look at 4 homes. I mean, if you could do 4 homes, that's great. But I personally say you need to do look at more than just 1 home. 3 can be an okay number. But if the more you look at, the more you're going to see what's available out there. So if you go to at least 4 homes, that could be helpful for you. And also to not just go there once, go there twice. At least twice. Go during a meal time. Go in the evening. If you went in the evening, go on a weekend. Go during the day. What I find is buildings can act very differently at night and weekends than they do during the day. One of the reasons for that is there's not as much management personnel around. And actually, sometimes they can run a little bit smoother on the weekends because there aren't people getting into some of the way the staff do things, which sometimes the staff want to do things more person-centered than the policies are dictating to them. So I would encourage for that to happen. Go at least twice to long-term care community that you are considering. Also, the questions in the questionnaire are really, it's emphasized that the value of each question is going to vary from person to person. This should not be something where you total up a score at the end and you go to the highest score. That's not what it should be. It should be looking at what's important to me. Is food important to me? If it is, then the dining questions are going to have more value and meaning for me. Is it the way everyday life is going to play out? Is my bathing and my care situation more important? Am I there for therapy? And that's the most important thing to me. So really, it should be based upon whatever is most important to the individual for the situation that they are in. And also the questions are divided into things to ask as well as things to observe. So you want to be able to ask staff questions, but you also want to be able to do some observing. And we're going to look at some of the questions in a little bit more detail, so you'll be able to see what that looks like. Then there are also some bonus questions that are provided. And if a home answers yes to any of these, it really may mean that that place is really on their way to culture change, that they really are looking at who people are. And they have made some big strides because they're willing to do some things that not everybody will do. And then there's also a chapter in the book that explains why some of the questions are asked, because if you haven't been in this long-term care world, you might not understand why some of those questions are being asked. And then hopefully it makes sense to you after you read that material. But it's important to know as you are going around and asking these questions that all the questions are supported by the regulations. So if you go to ask a building, a facility, a question, and they say, oh, we can't do that based upon the regulations, that's not the truth. All of these questions can be done and are supported by the regulations. So again, we want to make sure that you're fully aware of that and do not allow that to be excuse by a building not to do it. So I wanted to go through what some of those sample questions can look like just under each area. And we're not going to go through the whole tool, but I wanted to just show some of those questions. So one of the questions under care practices area is the same nursing assistant and nurse consistently assigned to care for me? Now, after having that conversation just a little bit ago regarding nursing relationships and why it's important to have that consistent assignment, I hope you understand why that question is being asked. To me, that is one of the most important questions that you can ask. If I was having a short amount of time to be able to make a care decision for myself, I would actually call up nursing homes and that would be my very first question I would ask. And if they said no, I would say, well, that's what I want. So I will be moving on and I will not be coming to your building. And I would move on to the next place. Because to me, I want to know the individual that's caring for me. I don't want it to be a different person every time. I really want that for myself and or for my loved one. And there's a sub question to that when these people are off. Is there a consistent substitute nurses aides that will care for me? And so that is typically a person that will work. They might rotate every place and they work when people are off, but you always have that same individual that will be caring for you when your consistent assigned caregiver is no longer has the day off, because you can't work 7 days a week. The next question is, can I decide when to go to bed and when to wake up? And I hope you understand the need to that after having the conversation earlier on. Can I shower or bathe as often as I would like? And can I select between a shower or a bath? I'm a shower person. I know people that are bath people. All the long-term care facilities are supposed to have a bathtub accessible for anybody to use. So don't let that be a response either, that if you want a bath, you can have a bath. And typically these baths are really nice baths. And then they have, they're big with ample space, and they're higher up so that you can get in and out easily. Many times there's jets in those, so it can be a really great relaxing experience for people as well, especially if there's any anxiety going on with the individual. That actually could be a very good therapeutic intervention. So now there's some questions regarding around environment that I want to highlight for you. One of them is, does the home have a garden, outdoor space that I can access without staff assist? That question was very personal to me. I had my stepfather live in a long-term care community, and prior to living there, he was an individual who was outside all the time. He would sit, as a younger man, he did a lot of gardening. He was outside all the time, working on his lawn, working in his garden. He just liked to be outside. As he was advancing in years, he would sit outside and just sit on the back porch throughout the course of the day. He loved to look at the squirrels, the birds, loved to have the bird feeders around. That was something that was just very important to him. No matter what the weather was, he liked to sit outside and be outside. So he moved into a long-term care community, and they had a beautiful outdoor garden space. So I really, when going to visit, I didn't want to just sit in his room and visit. I thought, wouldn't it be nice? Let's go sit outside. So the very first time I go to visit him, we go outside and the door is locked. We couldn't go out to the courtyard space. So I asked the nurses, it was adjacent to the nurses station, can somebody let us out? And they said, we don't have the key. Let me see if we can get it from maintenance. Maintenance couldn't find the key. Well, Tony was there for 3 months, and Tony, to tell you, Tony never got outside. No one could ever find the key. And that was really important to him. And he missed that prior to him. And after 3 months, Tony had died. And so he did not, we would go outside and sit in the front outside the door, but that wasn't what he wanted. He didn't like to go out and people watch and be out on a street. He wanted to be in an area where nature existed. And so he didn't get to have that experience again. And so that question is extremely personal to me. Can I decorate my own room? And there's a bonus question here. Can I bring my own furniture to decorate my room? I know of long-term care communities that allow people to bring in that favorite easy chair. And sometimes they can put it in their room as long as it doesn't impede the ability for anybody to go in and out of that room in a safe manner. It can be put in a room. But I also know that sometimes they'll put it in a day room, and it's your chair that you get to sit in when you're watching TV in the day room area. I've seen that happen many, many times. Is there a place to visit my loved ones in private besides my own room? Not everybody, when you sit with somebody, when people come to visit me at my house, we don't go up to my room and sit on my bed. Right? We sit in a social space. We sit in the kitchen area. We sit in the living room area. We might sit outside. That's what we do to socialize. And you should be able to have that afforded to you if you live in a long-term care community as well. The other thing is ask to see where you'll be bathing. This is where those observational skills come in. Does it look clean? Does it look comfortable? Does it look safe? Sometimes a bathing room can look extremely sterile in a long-term care community. If your loved one has any dementia or Alzheimer's going on, that can feel very unsafe in there. There's a lot of risks in a bad way that can happen. A lot of bad accidents happen in shower rooms. So look to see, what does this look like? Does it look like there would be privacy? Does it look like it has a warmth to it? And some buildings are doing some things where they've created like spa type rooms where they give robes to people. They have put up curtains that have more texture to them. They've done things to the room where they will put a baker's rack in there with towels on it to help soften the space so it doesn't echo as much, things like that. So that would be important to me. I know that. And the last one in environment is no overhead paging going on. Again, in my home, we don't have overhead paging where I live. And I wouldn't want that if I lived in a long-term care community, particularly if I was trying to sleep during the day or if it's at nighttime. I experienced many years ago where there was a gal, and let's say her name was Kathy, and somebody kept paging. Kathy had a phone call online too. Kathy had a phone call online too, and they kept paging this over and over. Finally, the resident got up and said, her name was Kathy, and she said, I guess I have a phone call on line 2. Where is it? I need line 2. And she got very, very agitated that nobody was giving her the phone because she thought the phone was for her. And that overhead paging is just a matter for staff convenience because many times people are too lazy to get up. People have cell phones. Issue cell phones to your staff that always get kept in the buildings, that you always know that the floor nurse will always have the same number. The nurse's aides will always have the same number. You could be able to text each other, call each other, be able to get of each other much quicker than using the overhead paging system. So let's look at dining now. If someone doesn't want to eat at the time of the meal, can they eat later? This is a federal regulation. People should be able to eat when they want to eat. I am the type of person where I probably many days, I don't eat something until about 10 o'clock. And that would actually be outside the window that most nursing homes have their meal times assigned to them. And also when I eat at 10 o'clock, it might be a sandwich. I like to have a sandwich many times in the morning. That would be my first meal for the day. Can I get that when I want that? That can be important to people. Can residents select from at least 2 choices from their main entree? Again, it's regulatory, and the entree should not be, well, you could have roast beef, or you can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It should be more choice than that. Can visitors dine with the resident if they choose? This could either be for free or for a fee. I've seen it done both ways, and usually the fee is very nominal. It might be just a couple of dollars. But many families like to come and visit during meal times. Many of you, as family members that are on this call, I bet you go visit your loved ones during meals. And it can feel very awkward for the individual eating to be eating when somebody else is sitting there not eating. So this is something that can just help for the dynamics of a meal feel better as well for the individual, and help encourage a good visit to happen between the visitor and the resident. The question about trays. This is one of my pet peeves. We do not eat off of a tray in my own home. We do not do that. And so if we're not doing it in my own home, we should not be doing it in a nursing home. I've implemented this in long-term care communities. It can happen very, very quickly. In the long run, I've had staff actually tell me that they like it better. It's much easier to clear those tables and to clear them in a concise manner, because all the cups can go on one plate when I'm clearing. All the plates can go on one. All the silverware can go on one. The garbage can go on a different tray. And it makes it easier for staff to clean up. So this can be something, again, that gives that home environment to people. And also, our residents who are seated at the same table serve their food at the same time. And again, this is something that has been looked at a lot through the regulatory process, and it's a common courtesy that really should be happening with everybody. It is a regulation. People should all get their food at the same time. Again, because there's nothing worse than eating when no one else around you at your table is eating, or being the person who's not eating while everybody else is eating. And then there's questions about everyday life. This one, the very first one, our residents' birthday celebrated on the actual date and not just at a group celebration every month. That is so important, and it's so easy to implement. This birthday celebration does not have to look like a big, huge party for everybody. As a matter of fact, I personally don't want a big, huge party, but I do want people to wish me a happy birthday on my birthday. A bonus would be if I got a card that all the staff signed, or maybe you put a balloon on my door, or on my chair, or during lunch, you bring me the dessert that everybody else is having with a candle in it, and you sing happy birthday to me. All of those would make me feel special on my birthday. And by golly, if I am living in a nursing home, I want every birthday to be celebrated, every single solitary birthday. And I deserve to have it celebrated. My birthday's on the 1st of the month, and you do the birthday celebrations on the 30th of the month. It does not feel like my birthday on the 30th of the month if you have everybody whose birthday it was on that same month in the room at the same time. I'm not saying you can't still do those group celebrations, because that can be a wonderful sense of community, but also to celebrate people's birthdays on their birthdays as well. Are there outings into the community? Can you imagine living in a long-term care community and not being able to ever go out of that community, to be able to go to a store, to be able to go to a park, to be able to go out for a ride? So that can be a really important thing for people. Do residents have access to the computer and the internet? This is becoming more and more important to those that live in long-term care. And does the home have any pets? This is one of those bonus questions, is if you can bring your own pet in to live there. I have gone to many long-term care communities throughout my career that have had a cat that might be living in the long-term care facility, or a dog. I actually used to go to one, a dementia neighborhood that had a little puppy, a dog, I shouldn't say a puppy, a little dog that lived on that community was actually given to that long-term care community because he used to be a show dog. And when he retired from show life, the owners donated him to the nursing home. And so he moved into the dementia care neighborhood with everybody else. And it was absolutely wonderful. You'd find him in the middle of the day, nestled up in a chair with somebody sleeping, in their bed, sleeping with them. And he knew who to go to. He knew who not to go to. He could tell who liked him and who didn't like him. They did keep him out of the dining room during mealtime. They put him in the nurse's station during the mealtime to keep him away from the food, for his safety, as well as for the residents, so that he wasn't eating. People weren't feeding him the food instead of eating it themselves. But it was just such a wonderful, wonderful community to have that dog that lived in that neighborhood. And like I said, that bonus question is, will they let me bring my own animal in? That can come with some caveats, but it can definitely be done. And that's something that is permitted through. And then there are some culture change questions. And those culture change questions are staff and residents one of those observation questions, which can be so important. Why? Because if people are smiling, people are liking their day. If people aren't, it might not be a good place to live. Other questions. Are you a culture to ask? Change.
Haley, you're starting to cut out a little bit. I don't know if it's on my end or if it's on your end. Just thought I'd let you know. Sorry about that, everyone. I just texted Lee, and hopefully she'll be able to get back on here pretty soon. Looks like she's disconnected, and she should be coming back. But yeah, so I'm a regional ombudsman down here in Quincy, Illinois, and I tell you, it is great when I see pets in the long-term care facilities. And I apologize. I don't know exactly what Lee was talking about because I've been bouncing between windows, but I think everyone gets the idea that there are lots of things that you can take from home that are important to you in the nursing homes. So I was wondering, does anyone have any questions or comments? Sorry. Okay, well, I just kind of want to close out the meeting by just reminding everyone that it is very important to have your way in a nursing home, and you should feel empowered to look for these things. And if you don't find it in one nursing home, look at 3 or 4, and hopefully you'll find something that's a good fit for you. Ebony, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Having just gone through, I'm a resident in a nursing home, for those of you who didn't know. But recently I was involuntarily discharged from one facility for speaking up. And I went to another facility, and it was not a good experience. My mother ended up having to call the police to do a wellness check because I didn't have a call light. And when she called the facility, no one was answering the phone. And just to speak to what you said about bringing things from home to make the facility feel more home-like or livable for you, a lot of times you have to, I don't want to say fight, but you have to fight for those things. Like me, myself, because of my dietary needs, I have a refrigerator in my room because there are a lot of things that I can't eat, and my family brings me food that I can't eat. But it was a big push with the facility to get them to allow me to have my fridge in my room. You also may want to verify it with several different people and also get it in writing, because a lot of times they try to back out or double talk. You get a yes from a social worker, but a no from the administrator, and vice versa. So just verify, 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 and get it in writing.
Ebony, that's a very good point. And I apologize for losing everybody. But that is a very good point. And I want to encourage, and I'm sure, Ebony, I know you've had engagement with the ombudsman, and I'm hoping that they were able to help you in some of these instances that you've experienced. But I do want to encourage everybody that everything we've talked about today, including, Ebony, having a refrigerator in your room, if you want a refrigerator, can happen in a long-term care community. And we cannot, that's what we have. We can't be afraid to ask questions. We can't be afraid to speak up for ourselves. And the fact that you were discharged from a building for speaking up, that should never, ever be happening. And if it does happen, again, that ombudsman, I hope, is there to help you. But I do know people have said, well, I don't want to live there anymore either if this is the way they're going to be treating me. So you know what? I know they've discharged me improperly, but I don't want to live there anymore anyway, because this isn't fair. This isn't fair. I hope your experience gets better. And if you are not happy where you are, use this information and start making some calls and do things now, and then discharge yourself, discharge yourself and find that place that you do deserve to have, Ebony, because you deserve to have a good place to live. I also want to encourage everybody, when you go into a long-term care facility, to bring pictures in, to be able to share your life history and any daily routine information. That questionnaire that's in that book can really be helpful. But when people see pictures of people, it helps make a different connection. Like if you have pictures of your family, grandkids, important people in your life, that can be really important because it helps bridge connections with people. So bring those things in to the long-term care community as well. And if you live in a place right now, you think it's okay, I wish they were doing some more of these practices, you can print a copy of this Your Way material and give it to them and say, why don't you start doing some of this stuff? I want to see you do this. I want to see our birthdays celebrated on our birthdays. I want to see that I have a choice between meal times. This is all stuff that I'm supposed to be able to have. And you know what? Let's get a resident committee together and we'll help figure out how we can do this. We'll help you, help all of us. I just want to encourage you all to be doing those sorts of things, to not be passive, to be active in your lives. Does anybody have any other questions or anything? I do apologize for all the technical difficulties today. This has been an experience. And Stephen, I appreciate you sticking with me and helping me through all of this. Lawrence, thank you for being my check-in guy as well. I appreciate this tremendously. Were there any questions? Or I see some resources have been put into the chat. I've lost all the other stuff because I had to sign in and sign back out. If there were any other questions, Stephen?
No, I'm not seeing any questions. It seems like a pretty straightforward presentation this time.
Okay, wonderful. Good, good. And always remember, people, reach out to your ombudsman. I know Stephen put that information in at the very beginning of this call. Always reach out to us. That's what we're here for. If you're watching this via video, just go to the Illinois Department on Aging's website page, and you can, on that page, you'll see a link to the ombudsman page. Click on that and you'll find a variety of resources, including at the very bottom, how to get a hold of your local regional ombudsman who could help you through many of these things. With that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to end the recording now. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today.